All right, welcome back to another episode. I'm Sachi, your host. If we haven't met yet, hello. If you have not written a podcast review, please do. I read every single one of them, and it really helps keep me going. I love hearing the feedback from you guys. Give me a follow on Instagram, shoot me a DM. I love to chat and connect. If you haven't already checked out our website, thecrnaclub.com, please go ahead and do that. We have a bunch of free resources there for you as well, including a quiz and a free masterclass, becoming a competitive applicant. All of this stuff can be found under the resources tab. Go ahead and stock that. There are a bunch of downloads for you there. All right, today we're going to be talking about the emotional intelligence questions you know you're going to get asked. It's always a surprise to me when I'm doing a practice interview with somebody and I ask them, so tell me, why do you want to become a CRNA? And they fumble through this answer when I'm like, you knew I was going to ask this. I told you I was going to ask this. Now, I know you're nervous and I know that's part of it. I get it. And it's great. That's why you practice with people, because that is where you want to kind of get the nerves out and the kinks out, right? But if you are struggling to concisely communicate why you want to become a CRNA, that's kind of a red flag, right? All right, let me step off my soapbox for a second. Let's talk about the purpose of emotional intelligence questions. All right, so for the most part, if you've gotten to the stage of the application process where you are interviewing, we know that you have the clinical skills, or we suspect you have the clinical skills and the academic ability to be successful. We're just doing a vibe check. They're trying to verify the things that they're seeing on your resume to make sure that they're actually true, right? The academic ability and the clinical experience is not all you need to be successful in CRNA school. You need to have emotional intelligence and emotional maturity, the ability to handle stress. Those things play just as much of an important role in your ability to be successful as your clinical experience and your GPA, okay? You are going to encounter so many personalities in the operating room, big ones, okay? And you are going to find yourself in situations where your ethics are going to be questioned. You are in a position where you have to make a decision that could have potentially disastrous consequences if something were to go wrong. Are you going to take that risk, right? Your ability to work together in a team with the perioperative team is going to be key. And that is what is going to help you to be successful in CRNA school, your ability to work together with other people. That's just the truth of it, okay? So the purpose of emotional intelligence questions, it's to try to gauge, are you going to be a good fit in this cohort? Are you going to be a good fit in the CRNA profession? Are you going to represent us well? Are you going to keep your cool in situations where as a student, things get stressful? You're working with preceptors who may be difficult. As a CRNA, are you going to be able to keep your cool in high stakes situations? Do you have a temper? We don't need any of that, right? That's what the vibe check is for. That is what this interview is for. So today, let's talk about these emotional intelligence questions you know you're going to get asked. And it's no secret, you're probably going to be asked one of these. Question number 1, why do you want to become a CRNA? So the key to answering this question is simple. Do you understand the role of a CRNA? Do you know what a CRNA does? Do you have insights into what it takes to become a good CRNA? What are some of those qualities and characteristics? And do you have some of those qualities and characteristics? Ask yourselves these questions, right? You can start off by answering the question with, maybe how you got introduced to a CRNA. You realized that you really liked the skill set and the role that they played. You shadowed more and you realized that this was something that you wanted to pursue. Or maybe you decided that you wanted to become a CRNA because you had a very particular passion for a unique population. For example, maybe you like cardiac peds patients, right? And you want to become a pediatric CRNA. You were just in awe. Their role just resonated with you. And, you're a former NICU nurse. You saw the lines that they put in, the autonomy they had, the depth of knowledge, their clinical skill set, and you wanted to have that. Or maybe there was a CRNA who did a presentation in a research project and presented on a topic you're really interested in, and now you're interested in doing research, and a doctorate degree is really going to prepare you to do research. Definitely have some personal connection to this why, right? this has to be unique to you. It's going to come across as disingenuous if you're just regurgitating somebody else's why that you heard. The key here is to explain what is it besides the money that is driving you to pursue becoming a CRNA. CRNA school is rigorous and difficult. It's 3 years. You're going to be in a lot of debt, right? The key here is to communicate something that's very unique to you about what drives you. Also, a big point here is please be concise. Keep this under 3 minutes. If you are rambling on for 4 or 5 minutes, word vomiting and rambling on, you're going to lose people. Their eyes are going to glaze off into the distance. They're going to be thinking about what they want to eat for lunch, and they're already going to be moved on to wanting to talk to the next applicant, okay? Practice this. Do not memorize it, because when you memorize things, if you mess up or skip something, it throws you off and you don't remember what you were supposed to say next. So practice, have some key talking points. Don't straight up memorize, but this definitely needs to be something that you're saying out loud a few times. All right. The second emotional intelligence question you're going to be asked about is stress management. Tell me about the most stressful time in your life. How do you handle stress? What was a very stressful situation that you've been in recently? Tell us about that. Okay, so why are we asking you about how you handle stress? Well, because CRNA is pretty freaking stressful, okay? If you are able to cope with a high amount of stress in a healthy way, tell us about that. Your grit, determination, and perseverance, your ability to push through very challenging and difficult scenarios that you've had in your life are going to show us that you can handle probably one of the hardest things that you're ever going to do, which is CRNA school. Okay? In school, people's cortisol levels go crazy. People get rashes, they lose their hair. There's oftentimes a divorce. I'm not saying this to discourage you, but I want to just shake you and tell you it is hard AF, okay? So you need to be able to handle your stress wisely. Don't say your stress coping mechanism is going home and having a glass of wine, because that is not a healthy coping mechanism. Do you run? Do you do triathlons? What do you do to de-stress? Think about it and be able to communicate how you manage your stress. All right, the third emotional intelligence question you'll want to consider is, tell me about a time you made an error or a mistake. The reality is we're all human. We have all made mistakes, right? And as a student, you're going to make mistakes. But the question is, what are you going to do when that happens? Are you going to try to cover it up? Are you going to try to fix it on your own? Or are you going to tell your preceptor or just be honest outright about what you did? This is what I just did. What do we do next? And have some ideas about what you're going to do next. But we're all going to make mistakes, right? But it's what are we going to do to move forward, and how are we going to prevent that from happening in the future? We all make drug errors, right? We're drawing up medications all the time. I'm sure we all have had a near miss or a situation where we've made a mistake and we're like, how do I prevent that from happening again? So handling errors, you're going to be honest. You're going to think, what am I going to do differently next time? Okay? All right. Another emotional intelligence question that you might get asked is, tell me about a time of confrontation. Tell me about a time you had to confront a superior or you had a conflict with a colleague. Trust me, there are a lot of times in the operating room where I have had to put my big girl pants on and tell the surgeon, who's probably going to have a hissy fit, that they can or cannot do something. And this is why, right? You have to be able to be willing to stand up to people who are not going to receive what you have to say well. You have to be able to advocate for your patient who is asleep and who is trusting you. You have to be willing to deal with the consequences of somebody possibly being unhappy with you. You have to have a voice. You have to have a backbone, right? And you have to do it in a way that is respectful and professional. So tell us about a time that you had a conflict with a manager, with a colleague, with somebody else. What was the takeaway from that experience, and how would you handle a situation like that going forward? All right, the last emotional intelligence question I want to talk about today is, what are your weaknesses? One applicant that I worked with mentioned, it's like, you know what? I'm a slow reader. I know I'm slow. It takes me twice the amount of time for me to read a textbook than my classmates. But you know what I do? I start way earlier than them. I watch videos. I listen to my book as an audiobook. I adapt the way that I study. I plan ahead because I know that's a weakness of mine. It takes me a little longer to get through that material, but I know that about myself, right? It's about being self-aware here. So overall, in summary, emotional intelligence questions, you know you're going to get asked about this, right? Some schools, yes, they'll hit heavier on the clinical, but there is going to be an element of some EQ questions. And now I can't predict every question that you're going to get asked, but those are the common ones that we went over today. What I want you to really take away is that storytelling can be very powerful. And if you can just write down on a piece of paper some key stories that have a theme to them, like perseverance, grit, stress management, conflict resolution, leadership, advocacy, kindness, empathy, right? Have some stories that sort of exemplify some of those key themes, and those stories can fit in to multiple different types of questions that you get asked, right? All right, so that is all I have for you today. Go ahead and check out our website, thecrnaclub.com, if you haven't already. If you're prepping for your interview, we have some a la carte products that might be helpful for you there. We have an on-demand mock interview bundle with some study guides. That's a great thing to check out if you already have scored an interview. All right, that's it for today's episode. I will see you on the next one.